Hello everybody, we've got a real Ferrari supercar here today. I think you've already realized, this is the SF90 model, and it's the top model in Ferrari's lineup, and the interesting thing is that it has a V8 engine. Usually the top model, they have a V12, but since it's a hybrid, so I understand they decided to make it a top model. But the video was made some time ago, the material itself, so after some time there were some questions, but also my thoughts, just now, I want to bring to you. But about appearance it is clear, Ferrari always has it, as a rule, beautiful, but I think that you will not find any losing models of Ferrari concerning appearance. But about this car, it is very expensive, it is very fast, 2.5 seconds to 100. Now, there are negative aspects of operation, because the model was massively imported during the period of favourable exchange rate against the ruble. But after the last couple of years, there have already been, in general, all sorts of incidents of technical content. But the most important problem in this car is that it is a hybrid. I think immediately everybody realized as soon as I just said that and called it that, there will be some problems. In general, the situation is as follows. Specifically to Russia, this car is now very problematic because all actions related to any repairs, they are carried out through online communication with the factory. As you understand, it is absent well, and accordingly, all other actions in general, they are almost impossible. I know that there are a few cars that simply do not start, but in general, they stand dead weight, and it is absolutely impossible to do anything with them. So the question is, why did Ferrari do it? The fact that the main motor, which is here, produces about 800 horsepower, and that there is on electric traction, add another 200, about 1,000 forces. All this, of course, sounds cool, but I think that if you put a regular 12-cylinder motor here, you can also accelerate this car to the same 1,000 horsepower, and why bother with all this garden? Perhaps the European Commission and the EU have a preference for electric propulsion, but I think hybrid technology for supercars is a waste of time and money, and as you can see, an ineffective story. It turns out, again, we are now temporarily in some kind of isolation, but I think there are quite a few far-flung regions that simply don't always have the same online support working correctly. Can you imagine? You buy a car for crazy money and you can't use it? Well, and just here there are some moments just about the same interior. I'm going to show you what the dashboard looks like. Well, to put it mildly, I have already shown you about it. By the way, once before, it does not look very decent. Look, a huge curved display. But it looks, well, somehow, well, quite inexpensive in the style of Tesla or something like that. I think you could have done something a bit more interesting. But in terms of dynamics, it's a cool thing. But again, such a moment where to drive this car, moreover, as you understand, that in its abbreviation is the word suffered, which means, well, in general, for driving on ordinary roads. But how to drive a car with such performance on ordinary roads is a very big question. But, by the way, the solution with the handles is very interesting, because I think even from my videos, you remember that Ferrari's door handles are not very modern, to put it mildly. In this situation, they've changed everything. But in terms of looks, again, I think the front end is a bit overloaded with elements, and it looks, well, partly like some kind of Asian electric car, don't you think? Write in the comments. Maybe I'm the only one who's kind of a lonely aesthete. But somehow, I don't think I am. But on the whole, of course, the car is interesting. For some collection, you can keep it for sure. But after a couple or 3 years, maybe it won't start. And there's nothing you can do about it. But there is a theory that this car is even faster for Ferrari. For Ferrari, it's quite a hypercar. What we've got here, in fact, is quite a mass-produced car, but it's not bad. There are also a lot of modern features here. But, again, it's a bit of a showpiece for Ferrari because SF90 is kind of made a model dedicated to the 90th anniversary of Scuderia Ferrari. Yes, that is a racing team, and accordingly, everything else should also be at the level of naturally bad Ferrari does not happen. And as one of my subscribers always writes in the comments, more Ferrari in general, then here, just here, the factory has made more Ferrari, and this $1,000 car can probably drive somewhere on the track. But again, I think it's not quite the right car for the track. By the way, on this electric traction, you can drive, I think, a little less than 30 kilometers. Well, of course, again, the question arises, why did Ferrari do all this at all? Why make all this garden? It seems to me that car manufacturers, who initially promised victory to electric vehicles, are now developing new gasoline engines. Well, that's kind of the question. I guess that's going to be on hold and on hold for a few years, and then it will be, in principle, clear what happened. Well, in general, where it all stops. I think everything will go back to the way it was. There will be those, there will be others, but supercars will remain most likely on gasoline fuel because, well, in general, it is the most understandable, partly the simplest. Well, again, despite the fact that in a gasoline car there are more elements that can break, but it is still, I think, easier to produce than electric, especially if we are talking about some super hypercars. Well, again, at the end, you have to sell, and you have to have some kind of competitive price. Now, I think that's where gasoline engines are going to be better. Well, now I'm showing you a car already loaded on a tow truck. I'm showing you the ground clearance. Well, of course, there is a front suspension elevator for such money, you understand, but at least it should be there. It just has to be there. But in general, if you generalize this whole thing, it seems to me that especially on the Authorichka, it is not safe to buy such cars. I mean hybrids, because it is at least a cat in a bag. And, by the way, here's the thing. There are a lot of drowned cars from Dubai after the spring floods. Frankly speaking, I do not advise you to buy these things. First of all, if you could do something with them, it would be in Dubai. Secondly, as I just told you, it's a hybrid, and all manipulation has to be through online communication with the manufacturer only. Well, you know what's going on now. So, most likely, all these cars will remain a kind of monument until sometime, well, or maybe forever. Well, that's pretty much all I've got. Now I'm showing you what it looks like under the cover. Well, it's an interesting topic, transporting a car under a cover. But nevertheless, the customer's wish is the law. So, that's what people are doing now. But that's all for now. Have a nice viewing. Write in the comments, liked it, did not like it. And how do you feel about supercar hybrids in general? But I think opinions are going to be very divided. But I'm off to work. Have a good show, everybody. Bye, everybody.